I will guarantee you have seen her products either in specialty stores, but most likely in those mass retailers, Target, for example. Mrs. Myers was actually founded by a woman who started her career, I believe, as a nurse at the University of Minnesota, working at the nursing school. Monica Nassif is with us. Is that right, Monica?
That's right. You're telling stories, but they're true so far.
All right. Well, that's pretty good for me. You can never quite tell. Allison Kaplan is with us as well from the Minnesota Star Tribune, because the Star Tribune is bringing Monica to town to talk about her book.
Well, she's already in town, lucky us, but we are so excited to be doing an event next week. I have been following Monica's career for many years, and she has so many amazing, incredible stories and lessons to teach in this new book that I'm sure we'll talk about. So we're going to take it to the stage. We're doing a North Star Live event next week. Now, it is sold out. However, we will bring it to you online after the fact, so you'll be able to enjoy it even if you don't have a ticket.
Monica, you've written a book that is called I Bottled My Mother, the Mrs. Myers story. When you've had this opportunity to sort of revisit your journey where you created a couple of brands, you've had a couple of missteps, what has been most intriguing for you about sort of revisiting your own path?
Realizing how much my childhood affected my business career. I grew up in a family of 9 kids, and my parents highly valued work. And so we had jobs at age 10. So I've done all sorts of crazy jobs, from babysitting to being a janitor, to being a truck stop waitress, to being a nurse. And so I realized I've worked my entire career, and I like working. And I realized all those early lessons working for all kinds of bosses really prepared me well for entrepreneurship.
It is interesting, right? When you think about how do we get the next generation? And I know, Allie, you and I have talked about this because our kids are sort of in the same age range. And you think about, how do we inspire kids today who grew up in such a weird time, right? And maybe their parents were too like, oh, I want little special one to have enough time in their activities or whatever.
Yes.
But you raised a pretty industrious kid.
I said, get out there and do it like Monica did it. Yes. Create something, build something. I mean, that's what's so amazing about Monica's story, is that I think a lot of people have ideas, but I'm always fascinated by the ones who truly go for it. And that's what Monica did.
Monica, you failed as well before you succeeded. Talk about that.
Sure. I failed many times. So when I had our marketing agency, Kilter, we thought we were geniuses and started a watch company, because at the time there was this huge gulf between a Swatch watch at $100 and a Rolex at $5,000. And we were doing a lot of branding work for a watch retailer. And we thought, oh, we should create a watch. Well, it was a really bad idea. We were underfunded. We were running 2 businesses at once. We shouldn't have done that. So that was a belly flop. And my second belly flop was after I sold Mrs. Myers. I decided, well, I'm bored out of my mind. I've always worked. And I thought, well, I'm going to start a high-end loungewear line now for older women who want something beautiful. And that too was a belly flop. I gave myself a budget for investing in the business and then an expense line, and I missed both targets. So I just shut it down. So it's humiliating. It's hard, but at the same time, you got to know when to, call it a day.
One of my favorite things about Monica's entrepreneurial story, though, is that Mrs. Myers was actually Monica knocking herself off. She started with Caldrea. Do you remember that brand, Jason? Higher end cleaning products. And Monica, can you explain what happened? Because this is so brilliant.
Sure. So we had the Caldrea brand that was named after my 2 daughters, Calla and Andrea, and Mrs. Myers was named after my mom. And at the time, we had Caldrea in about 4,000 to 5,000 stores across the U.S. And I just got this sense that someone was going to knock us off. And I thought, we have worked too hard. And I come from a highly competitive family. I thought, no one is going to knock us off. And I had a boss who always said to me, Monica, saw off the branch you're sitting on to force you to reach for the one above you. So we thought, we got to knock off Caldrea. And so we thought, if we wanted to take out Caldrea, just obliterate them from a competitive standpoint, what would we do? And that was our thinking. So we thought, okay, let's be honest and let's be real to our own values. We're Midwestern, we're hardworking, we're earnest, we love gardens. So it just was like, wait, this is my mom. So that was kind of the genesis of Mrs. Meyer's, was to really cannibalize our first business to create really what became our rocket ship of growth.
There's sort of a style of thinking that comes into play where you're always analyzing, okay, I'm building something here, but I'm also playing defense on the other side of thinking like, all right, what are the attacks that are coming at me? Do you think like your mindset there required maybe a couple of failures before, or required like the experience that you had to get up to that? Because today I think people think about protecting themselves from the knockoff. They don't think about just, I may as well just build it myself.
Oh, that's so true. I think what failure taught me with the watch company was we didn't put a sales force behind it. And when we shut that down and I lost $75,000, which you showed on that Inc. article, I vowed to myself, if I ever did another startup, I was not coming home until I had a fistful of purchase orders. I was going to stay on the road until I met my sales goal. And that was a painful lesson for me, was to have to spend money that we didn't have, quite frankly. So when it came to Mrs. Meyer's and Caldrea, that's the first thing I did, highly focus on a sales team. And that really helped us scale super fast.
Is that interesting? And Allison, you spend so much time talking with people in the startup space. And part of what I love about what you've always done is the fact that we do have this sort of underground startup scene in Minnesota. But to hear a founder say, you know what we really need to do? Build a sales force. Is that what you're hearing more? Or are people more talking about what they're creating?
Well, I mean, I think the ones who do it right are thinking about the team they need to build around them.
Yeah.
I think, the fundraising, one of the more interesting parts to me in talking with Monica is what she went through to raise money as a woman with a brand of household products. It's not that different from what we hear today. Would you say, Monica, do you think it's much better?
I wish it was. I think there's more organizations and there's more groups and there may be more funds. But it's still, when you read in that Forbes has a stat that's terrifying, and that is that women only get 2.4% of VC funds. So it really hasn't changed that much. And at the time I was raising money, I was going around to older men who looked at me like I was crazy. They're not doing dishes. And so the tech boom was really hot when I was raising money. And they were like, what are you doing raising money for dish soap? It was just so foreign to them. But I persevered. I raised the first round in 7 months and the second round in 7 days because I had a sales momentum.
How much did you have to raise to kind of get things started, Monica?
So I raised $800,000 from angel investors the first round, and the second round was the same. And that was really to fund inventory and marketing and a team so I could get up and running.
Monica Nassif is with us, along with Allison Kaplan for the Star Tribune. Monica founded Caldrea and Mrs. Meyer's, her book. Mother's Day coming up. This is a pretty good Mother's Day gift, I would say. It's called I Bottled My Mother, the Mrs. Meyer's story, grime and growing in business, great grime and growing in business. Is there a mistake that you made during the Mrs. Meyer's era, Monica, that you look back and think like, man, I wish I hadn't done this?
Well, yeah, we went into Target prematurely. So at the time we set up our sales force for Mrs. Meyer's, we started going after all the Whole Foods stores and all the high-end stores on both coasts. We had a really difficult time gaining distribution in the Midwest. It was frankly our last area that we got stores involved. And so I knew Target. I used to do a lot of work for them. That's where I started my career. So I went into Target. They gave us a 250 store test, and the stores were scattered all over the country. I couldn't gain any critical mass with other grocery stores we were in. And then I could see the sales, and you can see what you're selling per unit off the shelf. And so I decided to kick ourselves out. I thought the buyer knows what's going down. We're not selling anything. It's because we were quite unknown. So then what I did is I went into the buyer and said, hey, we need to kick ourselves out. and we need to get our act together. We need to be in more stores so we have greater brand visibility. So that was a mistake. I went in there early to Target. And then about 2 years later, I would go in, during those 2 years and kind of inform Target, hey, here's the progress we're making. Here's how we're doing. I never asked for the order. I just thought we got work to do. And I thought when we're ready, I really want to go back to Target. I want to go back in a big way. And that happened.
It's so smart. And I think we hear this all the time that, everybody thinks, oh, you're in Target. You've got it made. You're going to be a multimillionaire. And it's really hard. You have to be ready. You have to spend the money to make the money. And you've really got to be ready. Monica's story, I think, is so smart. And lots of entrepreneurs can take a lesson from her.
It's called North Star Live. That's the event that Allie has put on with the Minnesota Star Tribune May 7th. Sold out, but there will be all sorts of content at startribune.com. And go buy the book. You can get it at Amazon. It's at simonandschuster.com. It's all over the place. It's called I Bottled My Mother. And now I love your products. We've been buying Caldrea since the early days and Mrs. Meyer since the early days as well. And you identified that there were consumers like my wife and I who were concerned about what we were putting in our kids, putting in our body, and concerned about what we were using in our house. Pretty brilliant at a fairly early time as well, Monica.
Thank you, Jason.
Really fun talking to you. Allie, thank you. And your next guest is going to be?
We are going to do an event with Nate Berkus, another homegrown talent. He is coming back for an event with us on June 2nd at the Minneapolis Institute of Art. We're going to talk design and business and building your brand.